Like, what is that fear that you realize, that wasn't as big as I thought it was?
I would say one of the things is when you come from a bootstrapped background, financing is one of the things that you always have concerned about. Like I
You
can never
always
acquire
chasing money with a VC. You got to do this.
I can never acquire a business because I don't have the money, you know, and I
Yeah, yeah.
can't go like to a bank and get a loan or whatever. And the
Yeah.
reality is what we've learned or found so far is if it's a good business, there's money available. Like just as there are people that contact us or that we reach out to who are operators, there are also people whose job is to take the money and liquid resources they have and deploy those into said businesses. And so I think one of the things that was a fear of ours is like, if we do this, how are we ever going to find the money? I mean, we had cash flowing businesses, but it's different. That's a different thing than having $10 million to buy something or $5 million to buy something, right? If you want to go ahead and jump in to making that purchase. And so I would say that's one of the things is just that good businesses will find you can find a way to finance an acquisition if you don't have all the capital. The very first thing we ever did, was actually before Calm Capital. Marty and I were talking about the idea. I had the opportunity to acquire a design website. It was really small. It cash flowed like, I don't know, $2,800 a month or $3,000 a month or something in that range. And I mean, I could have bought it, but then I was like, well, that depletes too much of my kind of savings and stuff. So I don't really want to do that. I wonder if I can finance. So I was able to get it financed, and I paid for it with the cash flows of the business. And that was like, oh wow. So if there's a good business, there's usually ways to finance that, whether it's finding other people who have money that they'd like to get a return on, or a lot of times the seller is willing to work with you. And I just think that's a fear that I've heard many people talk about who are wanting to kind of get into acquiring something, and is a huge blocker. But it doesn't need to be. If you're having trouble financing something, it's not the right deal.
It's probably not a good deal. Yeah. And, that's like not too different than what Marty just talked about is finding, operators for good deals. And once that you match those two together, people will give you money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I totally agree to answer your question and kind of, I guess, encourage your audience. That is, not coming from a finance background or anything like that at all. It seemed like a mountain, right? It seemed so difficult to, buy businesses like this. And the reality is, between what I've experienced in the last couple of years and what I've read and listened to, that is it is one of the least hard problems to solve, right? Like it is not the thing to block you. You might not know how, but if you and it'll take work, but it doesn't mean that it's a blocker, right? I mean, if you can focus on constantly networking and constantly describing to people in different spheres and in your network about what you're trying to accomplish, it'll start to reveal itself. I mean, there's traditional ways to have kind of public capital, right, and public credit, if you will, and debt financing. There is so much private credit now available, which is, there's just a lot of different ways than traditional VC or funds to get deals done, in addition to the seller financing options too of cash flowing businesses, right? So I think that's the number one thing, fear or obstacle or whatever, that I personally had to overcome. And once we overcame it, man, it really changes things. You know, the other thing is we realized in this last acquisition is within months of closing the deal and taking ownership and beginning to operate the business, David and I said to each other, and had other people say to us, why didn't you buy a business that was 2, 3, 4, 5 times bigger? It might have been easier. And so like getting over that financing thing, right? And having the capital being a big deal to find, you realize that you could buy a larger business, have more free cash flow to hire better leaders and put the team together that you need post-transaction. And it's basically the same amount of work to find that bigger deal and close that bigger capital.
Yeah. And
thanks for watching this video. Make sure you're a subscriber by clicking on this button right here down below. And if you want to watch more serial acquirer interviews, click on this button right here. If you're ready to buy your first business, get my course at dealflowsystem.net right here. Take care. Cheers, John.